your writings, and you've been systematically covering the story of Vatican spokespersons who, over the years, have been in a very spread out and timely fashion, exposing little bits and pieces of information that indicate a Vatican, if you will, alien intelligence alliance of some sort, which when I say the words, I'm saying, did I actually hear that coming out of my mouth? And yet you've been documenting this. You and Chris actually took a trip to an observatory. That lies at the heart of EXO-VATICANA. Take us to the next step in this adventure.
Well, that's true. I mean, last year we were doing these shows on Petrus Romanus, and here's the trigger. Here's what caused this to happen. As you say, I had been documenting some of the spokesperson for the Vatican. They're out there talking about ET as our brother and all that, and kind of wondering, where are they coming from on this? Why do they feel the need suddenly, especially over the last 3 years, the last decade, but especially the last few years? And so when we were doing these shows on Petrus Romanus, when it was call-in shows, more and more of the people who were calling in, they weren't even asking us about the final pope or the prophecy of Malachi. What they wanted to know is, what can you tell us about the Vatican ET connection? And inevitably, anytime we would get on those answers, those shows would go to literally the top. We did one show on the Vatican ET connection, and it was the #1 blog talk show in the world for 2 months almost. So it showed us that the world is really connected to this question. It was resonating with them. That they too, maybe at some gut level, if you will, had a feeling that there's something here that's more than what we've heard the Jesuits that are talking about this admit to so far. So what we decided to do, if you wanted to get the answer, you go right to the horse's mouth, right? So we decided that we were going to take a journey. That's where we were going to start our investigation. We were going to go to Mount Graham in Arizona. Now, a lot of people don't know that the Vatican has a significant telescope on the top of a mountain in Arizona. The mountain is called Mount Graham, and there's actually 3 telescopes on the top of that mountain. Theirs is called, the abbreviation is VAT, but it stands for the Vatican Astronomical Technology Telescope. And that is where the Jesuits, who are studying deep space, Jesuit astronomers, who were formulating some of these opinions, like Funes and Guy Cosmonalgo and people like that, were doing some of the research. So we thought, hey, let's see if we can put together a trip. And we did. We put it together through the University of Arizona. We got it. You can't go up there unless you're invited. It's all locked off. It's all guarded. There's police up there. They'll arrest you if you try to walk in. What we found out talking to the Jesuit on duty that day, what we found out about the Vatican's telescope, what we found out about the other telescopes, what we found out about the large binocular telescope, which is the largest one of its kind next door that actually hosts a device.
Now, let me stop you right there. 3 telescopes. Get this picture. This is no small observatory. This is an observatory complex, multi-million-dollar installation, carefully guarded, has a classic optical reflecting telescope. It has a smaller guide scope, and as I understand it, a scope that's used for finer investigations of limited portions of the sky. But the one I want to get to is this binocular telescope you're talking about, which is just spooky. Let's put it that way. And you devote a lot of time to talking about that. So let's go from there.
Well, and I want Chris to weigh in here too, but the large binocular telescope is the one that hosts a device that we wanted to see. It's called the Lucifer telescope. It's an acronym that only Chris is probably the only guy in the world that can actually tell you what the acronym stands for. It's an infrared device, let me let him say some stuff, but then I'll tell you what I think it's being used for.
And wow, I wish we had 3 hours here. But okay, Lucifer.
So the Lucifer device is an infrared camera. It's an acronym, and I think it's really forced. I think they really had to make it They wanted it to be Lucifer, to say large binocular telescope, near infrared utility with camera and integral field unit for extragalactic research. Now, to fit that under the letters Lucifer, you kind of have to do some special massaging.
But Lucifer is a very prominent Latin word, which means the bearer of the light or light bearer, and his name is suggestive of perhaps something new, perhaps an illumination of some sort.
In the King James Bible, it famously shows up in Isaiah 14 and is readily applied to Satan, to the fall of the devil. And so that's where, the term Luciferian comes from. And that came from the Latin Vulgate translation of the Bible. So, it's a reference to Satan. And we, in uncovering who named this thing, did the Jesuits really name a telescope Lucifer?
So you went there with Tom, and you talked to the astronomers. You talked to these people, and they were rather open, as I understand it. From that conversation, what did they believe about aliens coming to planet Earth?
Well, they mentioned UFOs almost casually. I mean, the purpose of the Large Binocular Telescope really is astrobiology.
Astrobiology. Now, that's a fancy word, but what does it mean?
It's the marriage of astronomy, the study of space, and biology, the study of life. So it's quite literally the science of studying life in space.
So they believe there is alien extraterrestrial life and that it's coming our way.
I think it's an inevitable consequence of their worldview. They do believe in it, and one of the primary missions of the Large Binocular Telescope is the search for exoplanets. And that's kind of where the spinoff of our book, EXO-VATICANA, comes from. It's a word that means outside of, external. It's a prefix. And so exoplanet denotes a planet that's outside of our solar system. Now, what's interesting is in 1996, we've discovered the first one. So up until 1996, we didn't know if there were any at all. Now, today, they've cataloged over 600 exoplanets. Now, most of these are what they call hot Jupiters. They're huge, and they're really close to their stars, so they're just hellish temperatures. Now, right now, they have about 11 on the short list that they call habitable. Now, I think that's a misnomer. What that really means is that it could potentially contain liquid water. It's not too far away. It's not too close to its star, so that water wouldn't evaporate or freeze. And so their worldview is naturalistic, Darwinism. Basically, if you have water in the right temperature, that life will just kind of poof into existence.
Now, Tom, in about 2 minutes, the clock is rolling, and what a subject we're on today. Tell me what you have gleaned from your contact with these people, because they look at extraterrestrial life not simply as some incidental thing. They look at it as purposeful. Apparently, they believe that the people who are coming our way are going to create a new world here on Earth when they finally arrive and expose themselves.
Absolutely. Among the Jesuit astronomers that we talk to and we chronicle in our book, and let me say that the free DVD that we're giving away with this book also has some of the very documents that they provided to us. These are theses. These are theological essays which are being written by Opus Dei level theologians for the church that are now crafting the language that will be used for adopting a dogma that would accommodate a dynamic ET reality. And among them, there are those who they go beyond saying it's more likely than not. I get the feeling from them that they know something we don't know, or they think they know something we don't know, and they are in fact anticipating an imminent reality that would include either disclosure of alien intelligence on another world, or perhaps they're even on Earth now. The Vatican spokesman on the subject, Corrado Balducci, only died not long ago, and he went on Italian television saying that not only are they real, not only do they exist on other worlds, but there is an element of them on Earth now. And he said the Vatican is not only aware of it, they're using their embassies to quietly collect information from around the world. Now keep in mind, this guy was the exorcist for Rome. He was a highly placed Vatican official, and he said these things on TV, and he's never been corrected. The Vatican has never come out and said, our spokesperson for the ET reality, which was his job, made some of this stuff up or was speaking fancifully. They never corrected what he said.
And they regard these beings as superior, spiritually superior to us.
Yeah, they actually started out, Jose Funes followed, remember when they had their study week on astrobiology in 2009? 90 days later, the Royal Body of Science out of the UK hosted an event called The Detection of Extraterrestrial Intelligence and Its Impact on Society, in which they too followed up. And Jose Funes, as a spokesman for the Vatican, was interviewed by the El Observatorio Romano. Then he was saying, they're real, and we would baptize them as brothers in Christ. But now, Gary, they're saying something entirely different, far scarier than what they started out talking about.
Gentlemen, you have whetted our appetites today. You all remember Petrus Romanus. We're still making